Previously on Work to Game. Wheel it. Wheel and deal. What do we got?
Oh no, I haven't replaced the deep dungeon topic yet.
Oh, you suck as a human being. Chris has failed you.
Community feedback.
Yeah.
So maybe it will be on deep dungeon.
And we've come to Community Feedback Day. Thank you, Almighty Wheel, for bringing upon us comments that we want to address further with you guys today. Chris, if you're not aware, tomorrow morning you and I are going to be live streaming here on YouTube, possibly some other locations, the live letter covering patch 5.4. If you guys are interested in what's going to be coming next to Final Fantasy XIV, be sure to tune in live, or after the fact you can catch the live stream archived on YouTube. Chris, are you excited? What are you expecting for 5.4?
I am. I'm super excited that it's a late one. It starts at a full 6 a.m. There's like possibly sunlight here before the end of it.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. I don't know if they're gonna touch on Boja at all, because like we're having the live letter and it hasn't come out.
Yeah, and Boja's the 13th.
Like
so
just with the timing of everything, there is an opportunity there for them to be like, "Hey, we have some things we want to talk to you about."
How much?
We don't
But like,
always
how
get
much
to talk
time
to you before content goes live?
Like, how much time do we actually put into that besides like, oh, by the way, it's on Tuesday, you know?
Oh, by the way, it's on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then I would love to know if 5.4 is on time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would love to start to, like, as we look at 5.4, 5.5, I think I would love to start to know about things like limited jobs, anything that's still possibly missing.
Yeah.
I know at this point we'll start to get repeats of forms of content, but I would love to know, is there anything new and surprising waiting for the end of the expansion?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be great. So hopefully you guys tune in for our live reactions. We'll have some highlights and all the like summary stuff for you as usual here at Work to Game on Twitch. The link will be in the description below if you guys are interested in following on Twitch. I'll be live on Saturday morning, bright and early. And then we also have like a handful of other channels. But I do want to say thank you to all of our members. We are 22 members away from adding in new emotes to this channel, and I'll hopefully be showing those off to you guys here in the coming days. So look forward to that. Chris, are we ready?
Post those now in the comments.
What's that? Oh, yes, you can. Guys,
so
if
you
you're not
don't
aware,
have to wait for us to be live for a live letter to use your emotes.
Yeah, in fact, if you are a member like some people here that we're going to highlight, be sure to let us know. Like, leave our channel emotes in the comments below. We'd love to see them. I think it's really exciting. So I'm glad YouTube's starting to make some cool moves, but it still feels like they're a mile away. Let's dive.
This emoji thing's not a trend.
Oh no! I hope that they let you like start using them across like all channels, right? So you could end up having like a collection of crazy emotes. But anyhow, okay. Let's go ahead and dive into your comments, guys. Chris, do you want to kick us off with our first comment, or do
yeah? So this is all going to be on the gatekeeping post.
Okay.
I go back. I basically go back a couple of weeks and we pull comments from whatever video seems like you guys engaged with it the most, because that's where the discussion seems to be something worth circling back, because we put out a post. But to make it conversational, we try to communicate with you guys down in the comment section, but this is our chance to go back and actually kind of rediscuss something that you guys are clearly not done talking about. So this is posts from anytime throughout the last 2 weeks. We're going to start with member posts. Big thanks to you guys. Then we're going to move into some subscriber posts. There's a lot more of you than we could possibly get to. And then I even have one non-subscriber post. Why aren't you subscribed, man?
Hit that subscribe button.
I think it's even somebody I've seen comment before. So like some part of me literally was like, are we not doing something right?
We're forgetting to remind people. All right, guys, go ahead and take us into the comment.
Sin. So I'll try to be a fence sitter on this. Is gatekeeping bad? Yes, if you prevent people from even wanting to try the game, but no, if you're kicking people out who are bringing down the general experience or trying to force an unnecessary change to benefit a small group of players. I want more chocobos racing at the cost of, let's say, glamour options for Vieira or Rothgard. You tell me I'm bad because I want something you don't have. I'd understand if I explicitly said Vieira and Rothgar are useless, so let me get more tracks and chocobo options. In this case, I deserve that good old get out.
This is really a great perspective, because essentially, like, I kind of look at the gatekeeping aspect as the preventing people from wanting to try the game. That's my biggest thing. Like, if you try the game and it's not for you, you tried it and you realized it's not for you. And the free trial for Final Fantasy XIV is ridiculous. It's 2 full RPGs. Heaven's Word, I think, being one of the highlights. story-wise rivaled only by Shadowbringers. Content-wise, I think Heaven's Word right now for me is a little bit higher, because they were still kind of introducing a lot of new things and refining those systems. So ultimately, like, will be interesting to see when we look back a couple years and be like, oh, what actually was like the real like highlights of the expansion beyond the story itself. But the only time can tell that. But yeah, that's where I get it frustrated, because it's like you hear these kind of horror stories of like, oh my gosh, like I can't come and play this game. I can't come and try this game. Doesn't mean you have to live here. Doesn't mean you have to do it. But most of the people, at least that I talk to, that do take that jump and who have said they were intimidated to try an online Final Fantasy game are like, oh my gosh, I love this experience. And so it's about, like, as a community that is married, and you have to be very cautious, because you never know where someone is coming from. You never know the day they've had. And so the GTFO and then kick, like, to my buddy, the guy I know, and like, dude, like, nobody cares about like you wanting that. Like, I get that you want it, that's great, but like, let's just move on. You're fighting an uphill battle. Like, you can have that kind of that more aggressive style because you have that relationship. But to a stranger, like that could end up coming along, and then they might end up going and spreading that, like, guys, like, I just came in and I was like, this is great, I'm loving it. You know, it'd be great if there was like another raid. Everybody's like, shut up, you suck, we want hats for Hrothgar. And I do want a hat. I would love to wear a cowboy hat as my Ronso, but I can't. And that's kind of where I'm like, all right, like, well, what are your thoughts, Chris?
I think this post simply comes down to how we should treat people in pretty much everything, not just whether or not they want to try the video game that we happen to play. If their lifestyle is different than mine, but doesn't hurt anybody, I don't care. Like, if you want to walk around wearing shoes on your hands, and you want to go into the grocery store like that, but you're not going to like touch the produce, I don't care. Like, good luck picking up cereal boxes. Good luck getting your wallet out. Knock yourself out. So, like, people play this game in a lot of ways that seem weird even. Mm-hmm. And to people that like story, they're like, I can't believe you would play this game and skip story. That's crazy. Are they hurting anybody? No. So, like, even if we could objectively prove that there is a wrong way to play 14, of all the ways to play it, there is one that Yoshi P is like, we want everybody except you. That's crazy. If that guy is not hurting anybody, then let him play that way. I want to play the whole game walking backwards. Weird choice. Do your thing, man. Like, it doesn't bother me. Now, if we're going into dungeon content and I got to wait on this walking backward guy, that's where it becomes a problem. Mm-hmm. But up until then, if they want to do all their MSQ out in the open world walking backwards, knock yourself out.
You probably just committed like somebody to doing that on stream right now. Reacting to Work to Games walking backwards challenge.
So, like, I don't care. Like, just when you bring it into someone else's life, and as this game adds more things like trusts and stuff to the system, where more and more playing this like a traditional single player portion of the Final Fantasy franchise, as that becomes more of an option, it really matters less and less as the MMO aspects become more optional, because there are other paths. Where it is hard is people who want to play single and then they get pushed into group content, and then because they don't know story, or because they don't play their rotation right, or whatever, some aspect of what they're doing causes them to leave a comment or take an action that does impact other people's play. Mm-hmm. And that's where it starts to become, okay, if you're both impacting each other's play, is there a way that you could both enjoy the game and not ruin each other's day?
Right. All right. Michael says the spicy topics shall flow. What was that? What video was that pulled from?
This is all the same video. This is all from the gatekeeping video. I just pulled from one video, traditional old style. If you guys want to see us pull from more videos, let us know. We could change this format, but traditionally one video. And I just thought this was funny because I was sitting in some streams the other day, and some people go, "What's next on the wheel?" So I'm glad at least a few of you are liking the wheel. To non-wheel likers out there, I hope this isn't ruining your YouTube experience.
All right, who do we got next?
Tracy, I completely agree with you. Too many self-opinionated people out there. There is something for everyone in 14. So kind of linking back to that original that first comment there. Mm-hmm. But Stickman, I don't think skip potions are bad on all alt jobs. On your first one, you miss out on so many things you need to learn because it's just given to you. Now, if only the level skip potion is fine, but then why bother with that on your first job if you don't skip the story? Basically, like, do you buy just a level potion or do you buy just a story potion? In my mind, they should be hand in hand.
I know. At least as a bundle, right? Like
at least
like,
as a bundle.
Like buy a story
20, 20,
skip
35.
and then pick a job. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. If you can get both, I get it, but it only makes the noob problem worse. Players don't know even the basic mechanics. As someone who used to main healer, I cannot tell you how annoying it is when I stopped healing. That's why I stopped healing. Too many players don't even know the basic mechanics and then give me a hard time because they didn't listen. The entire I play my way argument is stupid in an MMO. You can't play combat that way.
I think I'm going to be really torn when eventually like the trust system is brought into like all the dungeons in the game going backwards. Like I just see that happening, and I think that's going to be
if you want to fire one as your whole rotation, do it with
go for
trust.
It. Or like ice, blizzard all day long. And I've seen people play that way, and it's like, hey, by the way, it's like, yeah, I never run out of MP this way. Well, yeah, but you're also like, it's not even fun. It's like, all right. But at the end of the day, like I know I'm going to be torn because it's going to be a good thing. So that somebody who's like, hey, you don't play my way, it's like, hey, there's a content for you. It's playing with trust. If you don't want to sit here and worry about your rotation or things like that, there's a plan for you. It's called that plan. And then that's only going to further, I think, just drive more people into the kind of that solo experience. And so then the end game experience becomes the multiplayer experience. And hopefully the game has at least taught you how to figure out how to play your job, and hopefully there's a guide out there on how to do it. So I'm kind of torn both ways. The other thing I see here when we talk about the skip potion is the nature of how the game has evolved. And it's weird because the question is why play more than one character? Well, if you want to be a tryhard, if you want to do and maximize your tomes, at least 3 ways from Sunday, like if you have 3 characters, that's where you want to have your tank, healer, DPS role, because then you're not going to be like that way. Every week you can have the maximum chance for doing that. But then that means every time there's a story patch, every time there's that's something you have to go through as a character. Mm-hmm. And I always have been just kind of debating, like, was that the original vision for the game? Because you can play all jobs, all roles on one character. But then from an end game progression perspective, the game says if you want to have that, like if you want to be capped on your tank, healer, and DPS, like, and that's assuming you pick one of the 3 role DPSs, like you're going to be spending a lot more time in the game itself. And in a weird way, it starts to encourage that for that kind of player. And I've even thought about it. I've even thought like, yeah, like I've got all my jobs leveled. Wouldn't it be cool to say, yep, here's my healer geared out, and then I have another character for my tank and another character for my caster. And I just can't get around the fact that I would have to do so much story every time I wanted to be efficient that it just is like, oh, it's the same concept and same problem I have in Destiny 2. It's like as long as I don't have to do the quests again, like I'll play any of the 3 different guardians. But like other than that, I'll stick with one. What are your thoughts, Chris?
So I think my problem with saying that skip potions make people worse at the game is like if they have any MMO experience, the vast majority of basic mechanics, don't stand in red circles, click on things that have a click on them icon, like truly game genre basic things that every game does them the same. If any of you guys go pick up WoW or Guild Wars, if the big monster has a hammer that's glowing, shaking like this, move out of the way. Like that's just a universal truth in gaming. Now, if you've never played a video game before, you've never played a game like that, you're about to get hit with a hammer. But like only once, everybody after that is like, oh, that I gotta get out of the way of those. And so it wouldn't take very long. I think that you'd very quickly learn that like stack mechanics mean stack mechanics, and like this game is so good about repeating things that it's a bummer that you have to be in the group where that person learns, but hopefully they are learning.
Right.
I think my problem with saying that skip potions are bad is that in my opinion, the story, especially in the way I did it, I haven't gone back and done it under New Game Plus to see how much better it is, but my memory of the story is a whole lot of Pray Tell, Return to Waking Sands, pray return, whatever that phrase is, where I have to just go do a fetch quest for Menphelia, which doesn't teach me how to heal. It doesn't teach me how to do an AoE rotation. It doesn't teach me how to tank. Granted, we eventually got a button that did most of that. It doesn't teach me it doesn't teach me the need for a lot of my like defensive cooldowns as a tank. There are all these aspects of combat where like maybe with a Dragoon, if you care about that, you're learning your rotation as you go. And you're like, oh, this button glows. I should see if that makes me do, oh, wow, that hit way harder. But for a lot of classes, single player content, it's not possible to play the way you play in a group. A white mage will never learn how to play as a white mage in a group because we don't run around Baldur's Gate style with a whole group of people where I can practice healing in my everyday experience. No, when you're out solo questing, you are a DPS if you play as white mage, and that's not good practice. And so I don't really feel that story skips are the problem, because the problem exists regardless. Until they go back and they restructure it to where it's like, hey, we have this other shard, you're going to start on this shard, you're going to play through the shard, and it's just going to send you in a 4-man party, and you're just going to learn, and then we're going to release you to the source. And that's our new player experience, which is something that in some form or fashion people have been asking for years. WoW this year on the 13th is the first game that I know of the main games, maybe it's possible some other game, to implement something like this. And I think it's not perfect. So maybe 14 does a better version of it. But in the meantime, like, skip potions aren't the problem. The problem is the game itself doesn't teach people how to play. For how flat and how like tutorialized the first 20 hours of an ARPG, JRPG, MMO, any of this feels, it's odd that it doesn't teach you the core mechanics that we consider to be the majority of the game once you reach cap. That's my thoughts. So skip potions aren't the problem. You got on some other stuff there, but we don't.
People are the problem. People are the problem.
Yeah.
All right. Farrell, go ahead.
Yeah. No, this was the second half to the same thing. So let's continue.
All right. Farrell says, I don't care if people use the skip potion or not. I just care if people think that Necromancer is going to be the next healer job and treat them accordingly with that. Note, my comment was not meant to be serious, and I apologize for anyone who felt upset by it. I'm very sorry. It's interesting because, like, when Mione and I sat down and we kind of talked about kind of our 6.0 job predictions, and then Xandri and I, we did that as well. Like, there's obviously, like, what jobs are there? And with the current, 5.3, I think it was a really fun way for Square Enix to bring in all of these different kinds of jobs. So we saw Necromancer, we saw so many different things. Berserker was one of them, so, like, in the form of enemies and different, like, Warriors of Light. And so I think it would be interesting to see. That's always not to say like that they couldn't do it. I just know that like historically, when we talk about jobs in this game, historically when like they do something like that, for me, I'm like, it means it's not coming. It's not going to be a job. They featured it over here for everybody, but then there are some people. We
gave you your outlet.
Yeah, we gave you your outlet. I would love to see Necromancer. I'm not sitting here saying that I don't, and if they come out with it, I'm going to be just as surprised and excited as anybody else. But when I saw the Necromancer as a boss, I was like, it probably means we're not getting Necromancer. What do you think, Chris?
I think that's the great thing about like betting on something not happening that you want to happen, because you can't lose. It's like, if I'm wrong, I get something I want. So like, this is great. Please prove me wrong.
Yeah. I dare you. I dare you.
I dare you. I bet you can't. So the next two it was a pretty common theme among the comments. So I just grabbed two of them, but many kind of talked about this kind of response to gatekeeping, because some of the initial posts about gatekeeping are that, like, especially me on the channel having skipped story through a lot of expansions, like I personally do get a lot of this hate that people say doesn't exist. So like I can verify it because I've triggered it. RPG Addict, if people don't want to play through earlier expansions, that's just fine. Just don't complain about the game because there's not enough content for you. Nothing for me to do. I'm already bored. No in-game complex progression. The game is bad. Do better. Well, maybe if you didn't skip 95% of the experience, you'd still have things to do. The game isn't designed around end-game content, and wanting to change that just seems wrong because the game wasn't catering to you at all. It's better to change it for everyone else. I'd rather these people not join the game if they're going to bring this mentality. And then a second part to this by Simply Legendary. Mostly I've noticed it's a case of this game sucks because the story doesn't make any sense, only to find out that those people never actually took the time to understand the plot. I've told people before, if you're just getting into Shadowbringers and just playing for what's S&G? I don't know.
Story game? I don't know.
Story, maybe. All power to you. However, if you start saying story sucks without actually reading into it, you have no one to blame but yourself. What's the story? Most of the story cannot be reasonably understood without doing previous expansions. I'm not sure who it is, Gatekeeping, literally telling all these people.
I would disagree with Simply Legendary on the concept that you can understand the story of Shadowbringers without going through the previous stories. And I think you're a great example of that. The fact that you skipped all the story before that, and then Shadowbringers, you're like, all right, I'm going to do this. And you're like, this is great. I got more. I would argue that I definitely got more out of the story, having had the characters and the relationships. Not more than you. I'm just saying I personally got more out of the story, having had these previous experiences and these memories, and just even coming from 1.0 beta all the way to today, there's been like moments. Even the trailer for Shadowbringers calling back the 1.0 Warrior Light was meaningful to me. There's these little touches, and I think that one of the testaments that I would say that 14 brings, especially Shadowbringers brings to the table, is its ability to have that callback without alienating people. Like, okay, yeah, you might not resonate with the 1.0 guy, but he's still looking cool. You know, he's still got that bow and arrow. You know, it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then you kind of find out like who that was. Oh, that was the guy from the first trailer. And so, sure. but for me, it had more. I definitely had a significance and an emotional connection to the journey that we've been on throughout these different expansions. And then at the same time, they do a good job of putting you onto a different universe, a different shard, letting time pass so the characters have had to develop. They have their like these histories, and so you're kind of, while you know them, you're also kind of being introduced to them, like, you know, having time had passed and change happens to us all, especially with time applied. And so I think if you just look at Shadowbringers as a standalone story, you're coming in, you're meeting these characters, and you get to know them, and you get to have this experience with them. I think it can be just as it can be powerful. I think for me, I really enjoyed the fact that I have played all the story and have enjoyed it that way. But I can't go and say based off of my experience with you that you're not going to get like you can't enjoy Shadowbringers without enjoying like all the previous expansions.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game has a lot of redeeming factors.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does a lot of things incredible. I really enjoy the way the crafting system interacts with itself. It's why I get so defensive, even though I'm not a heavy, like, omni-crafting is not my primary form of play.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's so complex makes it something that, like, wow, I wish I knew more about that. I love that other people do. And so simplifying that system to make it easier for me to get into, in my mind, lowers the amount of diversity in the game, that there's these people that are experts in this thing that I don't understand because it's so much, making it, dumbing it down so that I can get it in, a simple 2 to 3 sentence explanation feels like they were taking something away. Now, as they add like expert crafting recipes back in and stuff, it does seem like that's part of a grander plan. So not to get derailed there, but like, I love that this game offers a diverse number of experiences and then I can't get to them all. It creates a chance for the next time we're allowed to go to a fan fest to be standing in line and somebody in front of me be telling me about what they love most about the game, and that they're so excited to be at this conference, to be a part of the game that made that thing possible, and that thing be a thing that I don't understand. I love that there's an RP community. I love that there's people who are so into glamour and they get like emotionally hurt that they're not given a house because they're so passionate about this system that I really don't heavily engage with. I like that there's competitive PvP. I don't have any interest in doing it. I like that there's a different way to enjoy the game that I enjoy. Thank goodness this game can do that. I love how big it is that it can be a whole community. And I don't know that there's an entire community worldwide of people that are so similar to me that a game that only catered to what I wanted would be able to feel like this. I think it takes people of more diverse backgrounds than just me to make this game possible. And I can't tell you how much you do or don't enjoy this game. I don't know what this game means to you. I don't know if it means that because of some external factor. Maybe this game is symbolic of your chance to remove yourself from a situation in real life, or it complements a situation in real life. Oh, this is a game I share with somebody I really care about. And so because of that, it brings that to my mind. I remember all the times I shared this with that person. I don't know what gave this game significance, whether it's something in-game or out. And I can't tell you what that means to you relative to your life experience. And I don't want to. And I think it's a testament to the game that it has that strength. And so anytime you say there's one primary way, there's one best way, while I know that it's typically coming from a place of love and a place of appreciation for that one thing, and you're trying to raise that one thing up, I would say just be aware that you could possibly in the process be pushing some other way down. You could possibly be saying to everybody else in the room, but if you're not this way, you're not enjoying it as much as you could be. You're missing out. And you don't know, you could be insulting something that actually means the whole world to them. And that thing could very well not include story. So that's where I really struggle with this. And as for not being able to understand the story for Shadowbringers specifically, that wasn't this exact comment. I will say, like, I want to note that, like, Yoshi P said that they designed Shadowbringers to be able to be something that was enjoyed, that you could be attached to, and that you could be invested in without prior expansion story knowledge. So he designed it to grab people with skip potions. He designed it to grab people who have taken breaks and just don't remember the story. And he designed it to grab people like me who have enjoyed other systems and are interested in trying story in its fullness for the very first time.
I think that's one of the things that's going to make the as the new game plus system gets more fleshed out and more like just like, hey, here it is. That it opens it up to a lot of players, like, right. Because all the advertising for 6.0 is going to be around 6.0, and it's like people are going to want to get into that, and they're going to be like, okay, let me just play that, and that looks so cool, I want to check it out. But now as they go forward, it's like, and by the way, you also can do this stuff, so hey, are your friends not online tonight? Well, why not go take a day and just go experience, you can go and do all this stuff, etc. So it's like, I think that it'll be interesting to see a testament if 6.0 comes bundled with jump potions. Like if it comes like, hey, here you go, you bought the collector's edition. Well, if it comes bundled and then you have this ability to jump in, and then you have the ability to not just go create a new character to experience the story. It's like, nope, go ahead and jump back. Anyway.
I encourage you to use one of your boosts when you come try out WoW, and realize that it doesn't just toss you in without teaching you to play.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
It's a neat experience.
I just got the
boost literally puts you into a thing that it teaches you better than any trial of the novice, better than leveling through story. It actually says, here's things you need to know, and see one, do one, teach one.
So Leland just gave me a copy, so I've got that, and I'm going to get that installed as soon as I free up some hard drive space on this computer. So I'll be playing and getting my characters created over this weekend, so hopefully you guys tune in for that and help me create these characters. All right, let's jump into is it Brendan? Right? Brandon. We have a group of 4 of us that do everything together in the game. 2 of us would never miss a story element no matter what, and the other 2 skip every story and cutscene they can. We still 4 all love this game and enjoy doing the content together. That's where it's like, at the end of the day, like, 3-part? Okay, AO. Yeah. Honestly, whenever somebody has told me that they cannot enjoy it in the same way that they do, I agree with them and state that I am not them, but that at the same time, they won't or don't enjoy it the same way that I do. So that being said, I'm going to enjoy it regardless of their opinion on someone that they don't know anything about. My enjoyment being that thing. And Tisbio says, I feel like someone who hasn't seen all the story probably wouldn't enjoy the game the same way I do, but it doesn't mean that I can't enjoy the game or even enjoy it more than me. Possibly just seems like it would be different. It's such an interesting perspective, because I've often said, especially here on the channel, that we all assume that everybody has the same experience that we've had. Like, we all assume that, like, we grew up and we celebrated the same holidays. We've all read the same books. We've all experienced things the same way, and that's just, it's a natural human thing. Like, and that's when I see comments
the parts
like,
we enjoyed are the best parts, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that because
exactly.
You liked having birthday parties, that birthday parties are inherently a good thing, and everybody should have birthday parties.
And you have no idea how interesting that point is because my dad, like, his mom died when he was like 12, and they buried her on his birthday. He doesn't like his birthday. Like, we don't, it's not a thing. Like, it's, so for him, it brings up these bad memories, right? Sure. And for me, my birthday is right in the smack dab of crazy. We have like a month. It's growing, but it's like starting with the 26th, which is my daughter's birthday, and the day I proposed to my wife, going all the way to like August the 10th. In July, like there's like 2 weeks of just celebration where we've got birthdays, weddings, baptisms, like the whole, like it's just this big chunk of the year that we end up just kind of doing our big family celebration for everybody, during that 2 week period. So it's interesting because I look forward to that, but I could see how like, oh yeah, we don't really celebrate my dad's birthday because it's just not something that he has fond memories of. And but it's like that's the whole point. Like I was like, you brought that up.
Brian's
Like,
gonna have 13 children, and one of them's birthday is gonna be all out on its own, and they can just deal with it.
like, yeah. Well, actually, baby number 5 is gonna be January, so it's like, woo. He's got they'll have a cousin. We don't know if it's a boy or girl, but they'll have a cousin out there because like my nephew David's actually a January baby as well. So it's like, yep, y'all boys can, or boy and girl, who knows? We'll figure it out. But I think it's always interesting that from the perspective of that like shared experience, like as a society today, we're all going through this insane shared experience through COVID. Then at the same, so there's something that, and there'll be a generation later that won't have that experience. They won't have that ability, like they won't know what it was like. They can watch a video, they can see a documentary, but they won't actually experience that. So it becomes interesting when I always hear that people have that. I always try to put myself in. That's why I think trying to understand somebody in their perspective rather than assume that I understand it. And it's not, I'm not great at it. I'm not perfect at it, but it's always kind of an attempt to be like, oh, why do you think that way? Oh, like tell me more about why that meant something to you, why that was important to you. Because I'm always just generally curious. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think the world, I try to rationalize the world pretty logically. It just helps me kind of try to get through it. And we all have our way of dealing with that. And like, I had the chance to study abroad, and not everybody needs this to develop into a healthy person. Not everybody who does it has it impact them. But for me personally, it made a huge difference on how I viewed the world, because I grew up being taught that my way of life was the best. The country I'm from, the religion, the faith that I was raised in, the community that I was a part of, that everything was the tip top cream of the crop. We were the best at everything. We were the best high school in the city, and we were better than the other high schools. And in every way, we were better. And it's always better. But like, I only tried the one way. It's not like I had an incredibly diverse childhood. I had a nice childhood, but like, you did things one way, and in that way was your one life experience. And so then to go off to study abroad, I went and I lived in this apartment building with this old woman that only spoke a language that was not mine. And that apartment building was older than my country. And so there's this perspective shift when you realize like, okay, well, there were ways before my way even existed. And when I meet people of a different faith or a different nationality and all that, like, what are the sheer odds that I was born, if there is objectively a best way, what are the sheer odds that I was born into all of the best ways in everything I do? What are the sheer odds that I know what the best sandwich is? What are the sheer odds that I got the best faith and the best interpretation of the universe right out of the gate? Because somebody had to have been born into the best, but everybody else had to have not been born in the best. So even if for a second we assume there is a best of everything, what is the sheer odds that everything that I was told is I have the best way of this, the best way of this? What are the sheer odds that all of them are the best? It's possible that one of them are, and I'm happy and proud of the person I am, but like, I also want to be aware that like, it's more than possible that if there is a best way, if we get to the end of this and we, when we die, we get put somewhere where that there's some scoreboard, which is weird. That's not a version of the afterlife that I've heard of. But if there is a scoreboard, what are the sheer odds that they're like, yep, Chris crushed it, number one in everything?
Well, that's where the 14's hiding our DPS meter.
That's why it affects the afterlife. So learn your rotation, guys.
It's important.
So what are the sheer odds? And so to say somebody enjoys something less than me or more than me just implies like a level of empathy that I don't think it's possible to have. Like, I cannot be in your brain seeing things through the lens of your entire life's experience and all of the biases and all of the good and the bad experiences you've had to know what today's exact moment brings you. We could be sitting in the same movie, watching it at the same time. It's the same hour and a half. We're seeing the exact same images per second, and you can have a totally different experience than me. and I just can't bring myself to have like, I don't know, it just feels, I don't know if it's selfish or ballsy or something, but like there's something about it's like, there's no way. I just don't have the confidence that I'm 100% right, and that there's no way you could be experiencing something I don't understand. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So like, I feel that I know 14 is like way small compared to a lot of topics I brought up and could be spun into a whole other thing. But like, that's just how I feel about this. I think it's awesome. Like a perfect example is we have 4 people that play, 2 of us play this way, 2 of us play the other, and we just all like doing it together. That's the most important thing. The afterlife scoreboard can be later.
All right, we got one
last
final comment.
A non-subscriber.
Charlie, hit that subscribe button.
Regardless of anything else, Shadowbringers is most definitely not standalone. If anything, it's the ultimate culmination of many storylines that began back in ARR, if not before.
If not before, meaning 1.0. And absolutely. And Yoshi P's talked about that. The Hydaelyn Zodiark storyline, all of this has been going on since 1.0, and now we are coming into that. So there is a greater story, right? Like, if you look at the saga, then we'll pick Star Wars because you picked that last time. You know, it's like, yeah, Star Wars isn't just one movie. It's not just 3 movies. It's the culmination of this kind of universe and this bigger story that is being told. And then within those, the bigger story, there are, other stories that are going on that are like a little bit more intimate, maybe a little bit more focused. And it's good to have that. So I would say, yeah, like if you really want to get into that Odyssey, essentially, of what Final Fantasy XIV is, it offers that. If you want to experience something like that, and hopefully the invitation is that you see a movie, you see an expansion, and you go, wow, what's going on? And then instead of not being able to have those questions answered, that, by the way, there's not just they're not just you could go play those expansions, but there's people who've made videos theorizing, talking about, speculating, going through the lore. I'm on this channel. It's like there's so much more to kind of dive in and have some fun with.
You guys know we had other videos?
What? So, yeah, it is that. Like, Shadowbringers is a culmination, but hopefully it serves that if it is your introduction, that it serves as a good starting point for you to go find and get to know these characters better and have a better appreciation of them. That's just my thoughts. Chris?
Yeah, I don't think it's standalone, but I think for me, like in games, I find more than a single narrative thread, especially that feels like I don't have any agency or I'm just kind of playing through a movie. I tend to gravitate more towards world building. Like when I watched The Witcher, what I was so excited about was that I could picture this world and I could picture other things going on at the same time. And so like with world building, the great thing about that, it's one of the things that I really admire about like anything from Tolkien, is that like he built a place, and while we are exploring one story in that place, there's really no wrong point to come in on. So yes, Shadowbringers is the culmination of something, but because they did a great job of doing throwbacks when necessary, explaining who Graha was, eventually explaining how we, what happened with Minfilia, and how we ended up with who we ended up with eventually, because they went back and kind of did those things, they gave you enough to kind of get through at least the 5.0. After 5.0, I feel like it has, in some areas, they've done less of that kind of callback. So there have been a couple spots throughout 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 story where I do wish that I had a little more context than what they gave me. And thankfully I have somebody I can ask. But like they're placing those breadcrumbs. And so they're saying like, you can come in here. It is a culmination, but like, if anything, if you're wondering why there's so much gravitas, if you're wondering why there's so much like emphasis on the music and we built up to this and you're like, wow, that character seemed important, I want to know more about them. The fact that things like New Game Plus and the fact that people like Ethos Asher exist, you can always go and explore content that is centered on catching you up. So I do agree it's the culmination. I just don't agree that means it has to be last. In storytelling, you can absolutely start with the end and back up if that just happens to be where you come in on, or in some cases how the storyteller wishes to tell it.
Absolutely. Guys, this was an awesome community feedback. I think it's time that we spin the wheel and find out what we're talking about next week. Being that we've got the live letter tomorrow morning we're gonna do that news.
Live letter.
Yeah. Do you want to spin for Tuesday though?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love to say I did that intentionally.
It's like, what? A live letter?
Gil. What is it good for?
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Guys, we'll be talking about Gil and what is it good for on Tuesday. Hopefully you guys tune in. Join us on Friday. Thanks to Leland for giving me a copy of WoW so that way I can create my character and get my boosts. And thanks for all y'all being here. Again, if you're a channel member, drop those emotes in the comments below. If you're not,
topics.
Yeah.
Give us some topics.
You got an open spot on the board, so make sure you
start it with like topic parentheses or something, so it's easier for me to
search
like
it.
Grasp that that's what you're not trying to contribute to a conversation. You're trying to contribute to the wheel.
Okay. So yeah, topic in parentheses.
Something. Topic,
that way
wheel,
he can search
something.
it. We have to define it so that way when you search it, you're like, oh, okay, here you go.
All right, let's call wheel then, because yeah, wheel's the word.
Wheel's the word for the wheel. All right, guys, for Work to Game, my name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully to see you in our next video. But until then,
take care.
This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.